And okay. And Trish, can you do the Pledge of Allegiance?
Sure.
Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. So first on the first item on the agenda is audience comments. Does anybody have any comments that aren't on the agenda for tonight?
And audience members, if you can raise your hand, there's a button at the bottom of your screen if you'd like to speak during this period. I am not seeing any hands raised.
Okay, so we'll move on to number 3, approval of the minutes from June of 2021.
I'd like to move that we accept the minutes as written.
I have a correction.
Oh,
Line 3, I know Trish is a very active commissioner, but she looks like she made the motion and seconded it.
what? Oh, no, it says
Oh, no.
Commissioner Trenary.
Yeah.
Ah,
Tierney.
okay. So one of
Tierney,
each.
Trenary.
I
Oh.
see. Maybe we need an initial in the front to make sure we know they're two different people.
So I'll second that motion, Trish.
All those in favor? Sorry, did I already say that? All those in favor?
Aye.
Yeah.
All those opposed? Okay, we'll move on to business item, or number 4 business item is discussion of the 2021 comprehensive plan amendment.
And I guess I will start and introduce this topic, and Carrie, please chime in if there's anything that I miss. We are reviewing our 2021 docket of comprehensive plan amendments. This is a introductory meeting to the proposed amendments, which will be followed by a public hearing at our August meeting if everything goes well. This is just your opportunity to review the amendments that have been filed for 2021 and to ask questions or provide any feedback that you have on these city initiated amendments before we bring forward a package for a public hearing, likely at the first Tuesday in August. The amendments consist of one amendment that was filed by a private property owner, the He amendment, and the other amendments are all city initiated amendments, cleaning up items in the introduction, the land use element, the parks element, the utilities element, and then adjusting Appendix B plans adopted by reference, and also adopting a new 6-year transportation plan. And so, Carrie, why don't we start with the He amendment, and can you walk the Planning Commission through that proposal, and then I will walk them through the city initiated amendments.
Okay, we had just one amendment this year that was submitted by a private property owner. This is submitted by Mr. He. He is proposing to amend one parcel, which is off of Salmonberry Road at 1932 Southeast Salmonberry, which he wants to redesignate the comp plan designation from residential low density to residential medium density. And this would have a corresponding rezone from R1 to R3. And the purpose of the request is to provide a driveway access or a private street access to a proposed multifamily development that he has applied to develop on an adjoining commercial corridor zoned parcel, which is just to the south. And let me just scroll down to where we have more visual information on that.
And Carrie, I did notice page 31 of the packet, there's a site plan of the He site in between chapter 1 and 2 of the city text amendments. So you may want to touch on that image as well.
Oh, okay. Did it get out of place?
It looks like it just got inserted in the wrong location. So
Okay.
I'm not sure if it's a duplicate or if it's just a map that was inserted out of place.
Okay. So this is the parcel, if everybody can see right here that we're talking about, that's supposed to go from residential low to residential medium. And basically it needs to have that designation because even though we're only proposing to put an access in here, it is a commercial access. It is for multifamily development, which is going to be going back here. And so this use would not be consistent with the residential low and the R1 zoning. And if you go back here, this dot marks the property in question. As you can see, it is bordered on both sides by R1, but you do have R3 across the street, and you do have commercial in back of these properties. And we do feel that this is actually pretty consistent with the neighborhood and what's generally happening around here. Probably Crawford Road, as everybody will probably remember, used to be commercial until just a few years ago, because we can't really figure out what to do with this neighborhood with the private street issues and other stuff that's going on out here. But we were trying to get all of this area to be more pretty much commercial in nature. And so this development, bringing just the street in, not actually having multifamily housing right here, but just the driveway, we don't feel is actually inconsistent with the properties on either side, and actually provides a transition from the R3 across the street and the commercial to the south. Let me go where Nick was saying, you say it's on page 31.
Yeah, 31 as numbered at the bottom of the
Yep.
page. There you go.
That got out of place. Okay. And so here, and this is the north side. So you can see that this is Salmonberry over here, and the driveway will come in and it will serve the multifamily. This is 3 buildings back here. It protects a wetland, drainage facility. And I'm not sure exactly how much landscaping will be provided back here. That was one thing that I had a question about, was how much landscaping will be in here to provide buffering between the R1 properties and the R3 properties, but that's something that will be dealt with during the permitting process for the multifamily development. It wouldn't be conditioned at this time. It's part of this overall permit.
And I would add one of the challenges. So first of all, this drawing that you're looking at, this is part of a submitted permit for a land disturbing activity and stormwater drainage. They have not yet submitted their building permits for these apartment buildings, but I believe it was a little over 100 units total here. And the wetland that you see actually bisects the property from the portion of this 20-acre parcel that is on Bethel and the portion that is on the east side of the wetland. And so there's no way to get to the back half of the parcel without doing some pretty significant wetland buffer impacts or putting in some sort of access to get around the wetland. And so the preference was to come off of Salmonberry to access the multifamily, or I think it might even be mixed use. Is it commercial mixed use, Carrie?
No, it's commercial corridor.
Commercial corridor. So the idea is that coming off of Salmonberry has lesser critical area impacts. And the idea of this access from Salmonberry, I believe, will allow for a few additional units of housing associated with this apartment complex in a later phase of development. But for now, the driveway is proposed to cross that parcel to provide access to this new apartment complex. And then they would come in with an application later on to develop the area between Salmonberry and that wetland.
And I don't think we have any proposal for the western part of this property. What I'm talking about is down here, all of this area. We have nothing that's come in with this site plan at all. So we're just talking about this western portion, this wetland, and then this development right here being served by this driveway.
Correct. And the western portion of the larger site is commercial heavy, so it allows for things like big box retail stores, a car dealership, more intense commercial uses. And it explicitly does not allow residential on the west side of the property, but the apartments are kind of tucked on the other side of this critical area feature.
So Nick, is this, and Carrie, is this the main thoroughfare into this development?
It is, yes. And remember, the only question before council is whether to change the comprehensive plan designation and zoning on the smaller piece. You really, the development of the apartments isn't a subject up for debate right now. It's
Sure.
purely should the property, should the zoning off of Salmonberry change?
And if we don't change the zoning, they won't be capable of accessing the property.
No, they will. What they're proposing to do is build a private road or a private driveway. They could still do a residential subdivision where you would drive in front of, 9 or 10 single family homes on your way into the apartment complex. I suspect that's not a very nice place to live as single family homeowners if you have that much traffic going in front of your house. But as a land use, the current apartments are allowed where they're located, and they can make a dedication for access regardless of the zoning. It's really about, do they develop the entryway of the apartment complex with more apartments, or does it have to stay single family?
Gotcha. Thank you.
And Carrie, this is actually the land use map in your packet, not the zoning map. I'm looking at the zoning map. It is commercial mixed use on the east side and commercial heavy on the west side of the wetland.
Oh, I'm sorry, my apologies.
No, it's okay. So the wetland is basically this big parcel at the bottom of the page. The wetland is kind of dead center from north to south across that property, which is where the zoning splits.
Okay.
So what's around both sides of this chunk here that we're looking at? To the west, or I don't know if it's west, I don't know the map points, but those two smaller, long, 2 and 3 smaller, long chunks of property there around it, what's in there currently?
Those are large lot residential houses. They all definitely have redevelopment potential to where you could add additional houses, or likewise seek some sort of rezone to develop as apartments or some other type of use. But under the current zoning, they're modest houses on large lots and are subdividable.
Okay, thanks.
And actually, I should add that the properties across the street on Salmonberry are zoned R3, which does allow for apartments. So there's apartments on the north side of Salmonberry. It's only these few large lots on the south side of Salmonberry that are still single family. And Carrie, let's make a note. Let's add both the zoning to the packet for the hearing so that there's the zoning as well as the comp plan designation.
Okay.
Well, makes sense to me.
Yeah, that's the second before the second. Makes sense to me too, Mark.
I should also just add one additional point here. The property that's proposed for rezoning, it does have an existing single family house. So that house could potentially remain there for a period of time before it would redevelop. So that existing house is going to become non-conforming because the commercial mixed use zone doesn't allow for detached houses or single family residential as a use. But I think the applicant is well aware of that. All right, if there's no further questions on that one, I will move into the comprehensive plan discussion. So Carrie, I'll walk them through chapters 1 and 2, and then can you take the parks chapter, and then I'll go back and do utilities.
Okay. Most of the parks chapter is not in here. If you recall, we deferred that to
Right.
August. But yeah, okay.
So chapter 1, the introduction chapter, there really isn't a whole lot changing here. I think it's on section 1.4, the centers chapter. We are just deleting the word local centers because the county, Kitsap County, through the countywide planning policies, is adopting we're in the process of finalizing the adoption of the countywide planning policies, and we now have adopted centers language at the countywide level. And by calling these local centers, we are actually using a specific term from the proposed countywide planning policies. So we're just referring generically to centers, and then within centers there are several different types, one of which is local. So that's the reason for deleting that one word. That was the only change in this chapter, correct, Carrie? I didn't see another one here.
I don't think we changed anything else.
Yeah, okay. So moving on to chapter 2. We mostly just did a little bit of cleanup where we had some inconsistent terms. There was a minor punctuation and bulleting issue on the overlay district chapter in our section in 2.5. So you can see we just added a hyphen on self-storage, and then for some reason the Ruby Creek overlay district had not been bulleted properly. Moving on to 2.7, and then it's actually 2.7.3. So concerning our centers, when we adopted the downtown sub-area plan, the downtown plan actually extended into what was previously the Lower Mile Hill Center, where we had intended to do a sub-area plan. And so we are proposing to consolidate all of the Mile Hill area into one designated center and come up with a cohesive plan for both the Upper Mile Hill area by the movie theater and Albertsons, as well as the South Kitsap Mall. And so that we're really just looking at shifting the boundaries of that center because the downtown took in the high school and those areas on Mitchell as part of our downtown sub-area plan. So we have to also change our total number of centers within the number of countywide centers, which is one of the 4 types of centers. So we're going from 7 to 6 by consolidating those 2. Moving on to the next page, the centers map. All of our mapping in this chapter is not as easy to read as it could be. And also you can see that this new purple center on the right side of the map is the Mile Hill Center. And so we're cleaning up the map boundaries for the Mile Hill Center. And then our intern Josie is also helping us by taking these maps from our GIS platform and putting them into more of a graphic design platform to hopefully make them more presentable and easy to read. So we're just hoping to clean up the formatting to make it more user friendly. And there's actually, I think, 10 or 12 other center maps in here where we zoom in on each individual center. And so she is going to help make those a little bit more legible so that readers can clearly see what the boundaries are and obtain information from those maps. So as you scroll through this chapter, we haven't updated the maps yet, but that is in the works. And so it just says replace map with clearer version, meaning that we're just going to update the image. The boundaries will stay the same except for the Mile Hill boundary, and those figures will be updated. For the Mile Hill Center in section 2.7.5.3, which is on page 50 of the packet, we are going to rewrite the description of that center now that the boundary has changed to where the 2 centers are consolidated into one. And so we're still putting together that edit as we speak, and then we will delete the second Mile Hill Center altogether now that there is only going to be one center. I believe that is everything from, I will say the The McCormick Center, because we're separately working on the McCormick sub-area plan, we're not going to change that map right now because it's going to be changed later this year when we bring forward that sub-area plan for adoption. So that's the only one that won't be changing. And then moving on to parks.
For parks, I think the Planning Commission, I think we talked with the Planning Commission about this a little bit, although we haven't presented any documents to you so far, that the city has been undertaking with a consultant a complete rewrite. Well, we've contracted with a consultant to prepare a completely new parks and recreation plan for the city that will meet the requirements for us to apply and receive state grants, which we haven't been eligible for a few years because our existing parks element is so out of date. And we've kind of gone back and forth throughout the process as to whether we wanted to put that parks plan into our comprehensive plan and just make it an element of our plan, or whether we wanted to adopt that as a separate plan by reference in Appendix B and still keep a separate parks element that summarizes it and refers to it and contains some additional information. And ultimately, this is what we decided, is that we would keep a separate parks element in the comprehensive plan, update it, provide some additional information, and refer to the 2021 Parks, Recreation, and Open Space Plan that's being prepared by the consultant. And then when we do have that final plan, we will adopt it into the comp plan by reference into Appendix B. So there will actually now be two places in our comp plan that address parks. And so what we've done here in what you're reviewing tonight is we've provided a number of updates, general updates into Chapter 4 of the comp plan dealing with parks, just to kind of make sure that we have we've provided reference to the parks plan that we are doing right now, removed all of the references to the old parks plan that we're talking about. All of the new stuff that we've been providing in our downtown, that we have referred to the downtown plan that we've just adopted, that we are referring correctly to our centers with the correct names. That we will also be correctly identifying all of our acquisition plans and all of our parks inventory, because a lot of what we had in here was outdated in terms of the parks that we both have and intend to acquire. And so there was a lot of information here that was really outdated. So there was just a lot of things in here that were deleted. And as we noted in the staff report for the comprehensive plan that you saw tonight, we will be providing the Planning Commission with the final parks plan from our consultant for the August meeting for the hearing. And that will, we will describe the complete outreach process that we went through to prepare that plan, which has been going on for, I don't know what, Nick, a year and a half now. A lot of that was sort of curtailed because of the pandemic, but we did our best to reach out to the community online with surveys and direct mailing and a mailing list that we could keep people updated as our various drafts were worked through. And so we really tried to get people involved and in terms of sending us information about what they wanted to see in the community for new parks, for new facilities, what their biggest concerns were with what we currently have. And, you know, how they felt also about the possibility of establishing a parks district or a parks department and paying an impact fee to have that department or district and to fund future parks acquisition and maintenance. And so we got a lot of support actually from the community and a lot of response on that. And so there will be a great deal of information for the Planning Commission to look at in that final report, which will be coming to you next month. So Josie, I believe, is working on a new Parks and Trails map that will be updated in here. Like I said, a lot of things in here have changed, both the centers, as Nick was just discussing. We have updated several centers in the years since this element was last updated. And we will also be updating the Parks and Trails map in here. I think we're going to do both things which have already been achieved and things which are on our radar to achieve, so that you can see how our planning process is going. And this will be consistent with what is being provided in the overall new Parks and Recreation Plan.
Hey, Carrie.
Mhm.
In this parks information you provided us, it talks about purchasing or acquiring 5 acres of new land for parks moving forward. Will the new information packets that we receive, once this is all cleaned up, will that give us some ideas of where that's going to be, those acres are going to be located? Or some
Where are you
option?
looking at, Mark? I'm sorry.
Oh, I can't remember where it was in here. It just mentions the idea of acquiring up to 5 more acres of land to increase the parks.
If it says specifically 5 more acres, that we should acquire a minimum of 5 additional
There
acres.
it is.
Yeah, and that's why this section is highlighted, because I think that it's probably going to say that based upon our projected growth and the levels of service that we want to maintain for our current and projected population, we may actually want to be acquiring land at a higher rate than that. So we will probably be updating this paragraph by the time you see it next month.
And are we going to have some sort of ideas of where the consultants are suggesting, or what the public has suggested in the surveys you sent out?
We will have an idea of what the public would like to see, certainly. The consultant is working on his recommendations of what type of park, land, and recreational facilities on those properties he believes that we need to acquire. And so we're still waiting on that information from him as well. But yes, we
Good.
will.
And Mark, I would add that both the downtown plan and the Ruby Creek plan call for parks projects. And so there were 10 parks projects downtown, whether they're plazas or improvements along the waterfront, restoration of historic estuaries. So there were 10 projects in the downtown plan, and then there was one big regional park proposed in the Ruby Creek plan. And so those projects will certainly make it onto the list. And in Ruby Creek, at least, I think the amount of land to be acquired is probably in the 10 to 15 acre range. Most of the waterfront property we have because it's in a right of way or it's DNR land, so there's not a lot of acquisition there. And so there's a few other small park projects that we're talking about that you'll see in a capital facility plan for the once the draft parks plan is released, as soon as we get it back from our consultant. But those are at least a few of the pieces of the parks puzzle. I would also note that under the centers discussion here, I think it's under 4.3, we talk about needing to have at least one park in every center. And so we have 10 designated centers. And so I think most of the centers do already have some sort of park, except for the center on Bethel South near Fred Meyer. And then the Ruby Creek neighborhood, as I mentioned, we've identified the need for a park, but there isn't currently a park in that area. McCormick, of course, has the big McCormick Village Park. The Tremont Center has Van Zee Park. There's plenty of parks already in and around the downtown center. Mile Hill has Veterans Park. It's a county park, but there is certainly a park there. So I think we've achieved that objective in most of our designated centers.
Hey,
All right,
what
thank-
did we sign another lease with the Little League fields for football and Little League? So are those still off limits to the general public?
Well, I will share that we had a meeting with the Little League because they're interested in converting one of those fields to be like a field turf type product where it would be available for all season use, in which case it can become more of an all-purpose facility. But the Little League, of course, wants to make that investment so that it's available to them first. And then when they're not using it, it could be available to other people. So one of the projects we've asked our consultant to include in the parks plan is actually, we need to come up with a Givens park master plan, because there's a lot of different things happening there with the active club, the Givens Community Center building there, the baseball fields. There's a lot of drainage issues. There's a lack of parking and ADA accessibility and sidewalks. And so I think there's an opportunity here in partnering with the Little League to potentially develop a master plan for the park and then to go after grant funding, which you can get up to a 50% grant from the Recreation Conservation Office, and then Little League would fundraise for some of the other money to make some of these improvements, and then the city would probably chip in with its parks impact fee as well. So we've at least had those initial conversations, and where those go, I'm not quite sure yet, but I think there is a clear direction from the Land Use Committee that we really ought to come up with a master plan for that park to sort of rehabilitate it and set it up for success for the next 50, 100 years.
So would that mean that the general public then could use it?
We don't know. We
Okay.
haven't gotten that far yet.
Okay.
Okay, so I think that pretty much sums up, this is mostly the updates that we've put in here to bring this up to date, to get rid of outdated and redundant information. Like I said, we're going to be putting the outreach process in here, and yeah, we will have new information, all new information in the parks plan that will be provided next month, that has our current parks facilities, and again, that has the recommendations for adding new parks and new facilities within those parks. So we just got rid of this whole thing. It wasn't really feasible to update it at this point. New maps will be provided in the new parks plan, so this will be deleted. And all of this information is also outdated, so we have just removed it. And we will be reviewing the goals and objectives in this element of the comp plan for consistency with the final Parks and Rec plan. And we will make sure that they are supportive and consistent. Otherwise, we will be deleting them if not. So these may also change between now and next month.
And I would say that the parks plan document has goals and objectives in it. I think we want to make sure that none of our existing goals and objectives have been lost by moving them into the parks plan. But I would expect that the goals and policies will be taken out of the comp plan and will be put exclusively in the parks plan document. We just haven't deleted these yet because we want to go through and check off to make sure that the consultant has all of this information in his new document.
Right. And I think we're going to have maybe a little bit of overlap, just to make sure that, we continue to be able to have the public look at our comp plan and get a big picture, high level overview of what we're trying to achieve for our parks, but the detail is going to now be moved into our Parks and Rec plan. So does anyone have any questions about the parks element? I know you haven't seen the parks plans. This is kind of only half of the story, but okay.
Yeah, I'd say not till we get the revised program, then I'm sure we'll have some questions.
Yes.
And on that note, if we are able to get that document to you ahead of your next packet, we will definitely send it out ahead of time so you have more time to chew on that, because it is a lengthy document with lots of figures, and it's going to take some time for you to get through. All right, so the utilities element is next, and we've made adjustments here in previous years to update project lists, and that's what we are doing this time around as well. We have proposed a new sanitary sewer capital improvement program, and I'm noting the existing table is being deleted, and it isn't really clear that it's being deleted based on where the strike through appears, but the next page has the new proposed table. We, similar to parks, we have a general sewer plan that the Public Works Department adopts. And so this project list is what's in our new general sewer plan. We just are cleaning things up on the back end, because you also, under Growth Management Act, are required to have a list of capital facilities in your comprehensive plan. And so we just copy that same table into this document. Likewise, the water system table is also being upgraded or updated. And These projects all come out of the city's adopted water system plan, which we submitted our water system plan to the Department of Ecology right before the pandemic started, and then the Office of Drinking Water at the Department of Health, they had all of their staff reassigned to do COVID work, and so they haven't been reviewing water system plans for a year and a half. So we've just been sitting here with an unadopted water system plan, but we're going to go ahead and get the project table into our comprehensive plan because we need to start moving forward on some of these projects, and we can't spend money on these projects until they're in our comprehensive plan. If you have any questions about the specific projects, I'm familiar with most of them and can try to answer those for you. Carrie, was there anything else in utilities? I don't think there is.
No.
Okay, and then I believe that is everything. Oh, the 6-year street plan. Did you include the 6-year street plan in the packet?
I didn't know.
Okay, so
It's
every
adopted by
year,
reference.
yeah, every year we adopt a new 6-year street plan, and we basically have to shift in our Excel spreadsheet to the right every year, so that the new plan will be 2022 to 2027 for the 6-year plan, and then 2028 to 2041 for the 20-year plan. I don't think there are significant changes this time around. We have reprioritized a few things, and now that we have better cost estimates on certain projects, we're adjusting some dollar amounts. But the near-term project list is very similar to what it looked like last year, and we completed the Tremont project, obviously, so that one is now off the list. It's still on the list because we're collecting impact fees for the project, but it's complete. So it's not a new project, it's a completed project. Right now we are designing a roundabout at Bethel and Lundberg, and where kind of the Mitchell Y is on Bethel. We were able to get a grant for that intersection because there's a high incidence of accidents at that location, and so it scored really well in the grant application. It's probably not our #1 project from a traffic management standpoint, but when you are offered money, you generally want to take it, and so that was elevated on our project list, and we're doing that ahead of some of the higher priorities areas of the Bethel corridor. And you'll see that construction probably, I think the intent is to break ground next summer on a roundabout project there that will tie it's Mitchell, Bethel, Lundberg, and Lincoln, which Lincoln is offset from Lundberg, but they're going to meet in a roundabout that will help manage traffic at that location a little bit better. We are also looking at moving forward with the Bethel Phase 1 project, which is, I guess, really Bethel Phase 2 now. The council has already budgeted funds for this coming for 2022 to design the Salmonberry intersection and the Blueberry intersection, as well as Bethel between those 2 points. And so that will be our first major improvement that we seek on Bethel. And we're hopeful that either some federal stimulus will be approved, or that we're able to obtain another grant funding source, because I think that's about a $13 million project for 2 roundabouts and for widening Bethel and making it a complete street between those 2 sections. Once that first phase of Bethel is done, we would move on to points north towards Sedgwick, or south towards Sedgwick, and we're trying to bite those off in manageable pieces rather than trying to tackle a $70 million project all at once. So those are the things that you'll see on the 6-year street plan adjustment. And other than that, we are deleting a 1987 Blackjack Creek plan and replacing it with the new 2017 plan. That was finished a few years ago, and we just hadn't added it to our documents adopted by reference, but it's certainly an improvement over the old document. We're also referencing the 2020 water plan and the 2020 sewer plans, as well as extending the horizon on our capital facilities plan until we're able to update that as part of our 2024 comprehensive plan update. Other than that, also we're adding the, a couple of years ago, the mayor commissioned a space analysis for City Hall, looking at, do we need to expand City Hall or not? And by adopting this by reference in our comprehensive plan, we're able to then act on that document and spend money to design and improve City Hall as funding allows. And then you'll see here is also the reference to the 2021 Parks Plan. So that is all I have for tonight. Are there any questions?
Do we still have guests on here or did they go?
At least two of them left. One of them's back. We have 3 attendees, but nobody has raised their hand that I know of.
Okay.
Hey, Nick, how much do you know about the roundabout there at Lundberg and Bethel?
I've seen some graphics.
Do you know, are they gonna completely shut down Mitchell off of Bethel? Closer down towards the Tremont or Lund intersection? Are they gonna shut that down heading, I guess that'd be northeast?
Yes, they were looking at alternatives. But yes, everybody will be using Bethel, and if they want to get over to Lincoln or Mitchell, they will use this new roundabout to do so.
Then come back around?
Yeah, and then I think there's either a compact cul-de-sac or hammerhead turnaround for Mitchell where it intersects with Bethel. So vehicles, fire trucks and garbage trucks will be able to turn around if they go towards Bethel at the new dead end, but it won't be a through street there.
Gotcha. All right, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
That it? Does anybody have any other questions? Nick, when will we be back in person?
Well, it is possible that August will be an in-person meeting. The governor has not repealed his executive order concerning the Open Public Meetings Act. So we are still able to meet electronically, although his announcements seem to indicate that everything is back to normal and 100% reopening, but then he hasn't actually rescinded all of his executive orders. So we have emailed the governor's office and have not heard a response as to whether that is coming or when it will be coming. So it's hard for us to send out public hearing notices and to plan for meetings in the absence of that information. So hopefully we'll get something from him soon.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so anybody have anything else? Seeing nothing, I guess we'll adjourn and we'll see you next month.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, thank you.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Bye.